This is Chuck Snyder, Brentwood Communications. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you today about a topic that has been growing in importance over the last few months. Today we'll look at ADA compliance for your website. Title III of the Americans with Disabilities Act was signed into law in 1990 and prohibits discrimination against the disabled, which we most associate with handicapped bathrooms and parking spaces. But Section 508 was added in 2018, which made it apply to all websites. This means that every business with a website is vulnerable to lawsuits. Lou Varney does the best job of describing it.
Businesses hit by a record wave of lawsuits in connection with Americans with a Disability Act. In particular, lawsuits that allege websites are not ADA compliant. 1,000 such lawsuits actually filed this year alone, just so far this year, 2018. More this year than in all of 2017. One of the lawyers who crunched the numbers on this show joins us now, Min Vu with Seyfarth Shaw. Min, welcome to the program. Good to see you.
Thank you.
First of all, in what way is a website non-ADA compliant?
Well, so websites have to be designed and constructed in a way that is accessible to people with disabilities.
Right.
So people who are blind, for example, use screen reader software, and that has to interact with the website. And if the website is not designed to interact with it properly, it's not going to work.
So a blind person could sue the website and say, you're not taking care of me under the terms of the Act. I want you to make sure you get it right and pay me some money. Is that how it works?
Pretty much, yes.
Okay. Supposing someone is deaf, can you insist that the website speaks to you, has an audio portion? That's part of it?
Well, actually, if you're deaf, then you would want to have closed captioning on your online videos.
Yeah,
So that's
okay.
how-
Okay, I'm sorry.
But for the blind people, yes. The blind
Okay.
people would need, the website doesn't have to speak to them. It's the fact that the website has to be compatible with the screen reader software that then reads the content and functionality to the person who's blind. Everything's online now, right? And so it is very difficult to basically do anything without being able to be on a website and be able to access it. So those are legitimate concerns, and there are lots of advocates who are legitimately concerned. The problem is that many of the plaintiffs' lawyers have figured out that the vast majority of businesses don't have an accessible website because everybody was kind of caught with their pants down.
Right.
You know, there are no regulations on this, and the
Right.
courts have started to basically come out saying, yes, you know, your website has to be accessible. So everybody's caught kind of unaware, and these plaintiffs' lawyers are taking advantage. It's really expensive, absolutely. I mean, you know, you think about how many millions of websites there are out there. I don't even think there are enough consultants to help people. This is not something you and I can just figure out.
No, it's not. It's not.
Yeah, it's
okay.
not.
So the lawyer files the suit and says, you're not compliant. What does the lawyer say? Make your website compliant and or give me money? Is that how it works?
No, usually they ask for give me money and make the website compliant.
Give me money and make it.
Yes.
So punitively, you give me money. And does
Well,
the lawyer
it's more that, okay, the ADA allows lawyers to get their attorney's fees if they win.
Okay.
So as part of the settlement, you're going to have to pay their fees, but sometimes those fees don't necessarily have anything to do with actual time spent.
No,
You know
of
what
course
I mean?
they don't. Of course they don't. It's-
Because otherwise the alternative is to litigate the case, and that's very expensive. But the situation is wrong. I mean, there should be regulations on this. There should be a process, clear rules, and time for businesses to basically make their websites, you know, accessible.
All right, Min Vu, you're not quite joining me in my outrage, but come back
Sorry.
again and maybe you will.
All right.
Thanks for joining us. We do appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
And here is a brief video example of a specific case.
Navy veteran has filed more than 120 lawsuits against city and county governments and businesses saying their websites are not accessible to people like him. That's because those websites don't work with screen reader programs. Action News Jack's Jenna Bourne has been covering Americans with Disabilities Act lawsuits for the past 2 years. She found that some local governments have already settled and spent tens of thousands of tax dollars to make the changes.
Camera. Contact.
Patrick Turnage relies on screen reader programs to access information online. Turnage is blind. He's also the assistant technology coordinator at the Florida School for the Deaf and Blind.
It really is disappointing when you see websites that aren't accessible, because there is so much out there already about what you can do to make your website accessible.
Joel Price, a Navy veteran who is blind, has sued more than 120 city and county governments and businesses over their website's accessibility to the visually impaired. St. Johns County is just one of the local governments that Joel Price has filed a lawsuit against. Now, the county has since settled with Price and made changes to their website.
It is coming at a significant cost to the taxpayer, but sometimes it's just the right thing to do.
I reported in February that St. Johns County was also one of more than 50 local governments in Florida sued for failing to provide closed captioning for videos of meetings posted online, violating the constitutional rights of people who are deaf. Since then, St. Johns County settled both lawsuits for about $20,000. Accessibility improvements to the county's websites cost about $50,000 up front and will continue to cost about $20,000 every year.
It's important so that blind people are not left out or they lack access to vital information, because so much is communicated through the web.
Reporting in St. Augustine, Jenna Bourne, CBS 47, Fox 30, Action News Jax.
Joel Price has also sued Jacksonville Beach, Putnam, Nassau, and Clay counties. Putnam County settled.
I'm glad to share with you that Brentwood Communications has a tool that is far more cost efficient than what you've just seen in this video. But the truth is, lawsuits are growing 200% just last year alone. And they do include hospitals like HCA, Tenet Healthcare, and WellPoint. But I do have some good news. In the midst of all this bad news, there is some upside, because 26.7% of healthcare spending is by the disabled, making it an important market. So now let's look at what is web accessibility. Well, at its core, it's a set of rules, behaviors, design, and most importantly, code standards affecting almost every line of code on your website. The barriers that must be overcome include visual barriers for the blind, auditory barriers for the deaf, ambulatory barriers for the physically impaired, and cognitive barriers for the learning disabled. Of course, there's more detail than we could cover in a meeting like this, but the bottom line is every site needs to be coded to make it accessible to the blind, the sight impaired, and the deaf. Thankfully, a set of web content accessibility guidelines or standards has been set up by the World Wide Web Consortium, otherwise known as W3C, which gives us a good roadmap of how to set up our websites. And the courts and the Department of Justice accept these guidelines as the standard for compliance. Now, 30% of the requirements to meet the standard are the sight impaired. It's for the sight impaired, not the blind. It includes those with impaired vision, cataracts, dyslexia, color blindness, and aging, for example. And the BCI SMARTAccess program includes an accessibility interface tool which allows the sight impaired to make adjustments to your website in real time to make it easier to read and to offer a personal user experience unique to them. This is Macon Community Hospital. You see the URL at the bottom, and I invite you to go and see how this widget that you see on the right-hand side, this interface tool, actually works in real time. But it can make the font bigger instantly. You can adjust word spacing or letter spacing or content scaling. And the second section sets up your website for the colorblind. A colorblind person cannot see certain colors, as you know, so the tool allows them to adjust the color of text, title, or even background in real time instantly. And finally, the interface also provides an accessibility statement, which is a requirement of the WCAG standards. Now, 70% of the standard guidelines are about setting up your site to be compatible with screen readers for the blind. It's a big job and touches almost all of the code in your site. Here's a quick demonstration of how a screen reader works.
This is Mark Sutton from the University of California, San Francisco's IT Web Services Department. Here today with a brief tour of screen reading technology. I'm a blind person who has been using screen readers, braille writers, scanning equipment, other adaptive technologies since my childhood. What a screen reader does is, for example, I'm going to read this start to read this page.
Navigation button. Link. University of California, San Francisco. Link. About UCSF. Link. Search UCSF.
And what I will now do is slow down the speech rate.
Rating percent. 75%, 70%, 65%, 60%, 55%, 50%, 45%, 40%. Link. UCSF Medical Center.
So as I was about to say, a screen reader converts what's on a computer screen into information that can be displayed through synthetic speech or Braille output. And it does that by allowing you to use a computer instead of a mouse, a computer keyboard instead of a mouse. You can also use a Braille display as an input device.
End of navigation.
And what it does is it cleverly determines what's on the screen and presents you that information in a way that would allow for efficient navigation of these pages. So for example, I could just keep reading.
Banner 3 items. Visited, link, image, home.
Line by line, and we could be here all day. Or I could jump to the first heading on the page.
Heading level 2. Search for heading level 2. You are here. Heading level 1. Make videos accessible.
So as I'm moving down through the page, I can look for the category that interests me. And I'm just using commands built into the screen reader. So that's all a pretty simple description of what a screen reader is all about. Now I'm going to go over and show a few examples of how that can fall apart. So I have a couple graphics on this page.
Mark Sutton hands on a MacBook Pro image.
So the first one is well described and uses an alt tag.
You are currently on it.
To describe what that graphic is all about. Now we go to the next graphic.
Reader 042116.jpg.
Much less useful. So it's important to use those elements. It's also true for tables. So I'm going to move to a table.
FDA approved medications. Table, 3 columns, 5 rows. FDA approved medications.
So the table is pretty self-explanatory, and I'm going to move into the table.
Medicine. Approved. Column 2 of 3.
And then if I go down into the table.
Medicine. Tolbutamide.
And as I move across.
Approved. 1975. Column 2 of 3.
We're getting the labels for the column headers and row headers. So it's important when programming tables, forms, and other elements on the web pages to use the proper HTML codes. I'll go to the
table 3 columns.
Second table on the page.
Medicine. Row 2 of 5 tolbutamide.
And as I'm in the table, I move across it.
Row. November 1995.
I get a date, but I don't know what that date is associated with. So it's important, as I was saying, to include proper coding tags for all these elements.
Well, in order to meet the standard for accessibility, your site should be coded so that the blind can operate your entire website top to bottom using a keyboard only. There are a number of coding tools which are necessary, like an ARIA code, which is Accessible Rich Internet Application. The ARIA code is a set of attributes that helps developers describe the content. They also provide landmark roles which help the blind to skip navigate through the page to the content they want, just as we saw in the previous demonstration. The BCI SMARTAccess tool makes it setting it up for alt tags and for images much easier than manual coding because it uses Iris and OCR technologies that are AI-powered machine learning algorithms built on an analysis of thousands of websites. Iris can describe the image content of a photo, and OCR can read the type or text within an image or photo. Your site must also be accessible for the deaf, with closed captioning added to videos and podcasts. This is easily done through YouTube, which adds closed captioning, and something we can help you with. Then also, PDFs must be coded for accessibility. This is a manual process, but here's the good news. Once you code it for accessibility, you have also coded it so the web crawler can find it, which improves your SEO for your website. This is also something we can assist you with. So, what are the solutions for making your site accessible for the blind and the sight impaired? Well, one option is to make your site accessible to manually code the site line by line by hiring a third party for this. However, this option takes time and significant cost, and it also means you have to continue to manually update your site with every change to the content. The second option is to install a plugin or widget. This provides some of the screen adjustments for the sight impaired, as you saw with our interface tool, but does not set the site up for the blind to use screen readers, which is 70% of the WCAG requirement. Then finally, BCI, we offer a solution called SMARTAccess, which is an SAS software tool that scans your site and performs the coding without manual entry. It's AI powered. It installs the interface for the vision impaired, as we demonstrated earlier. It scans and adjusts the code throughout your site for screen readers so that the blind can read it and hear it read. It prepares accessible web files for user browser viewing. It daily scans and updates the code for new content. It creates an accessibility statement, and it meets all the requirements for the WCAG. Our SmartAccess program also includes the design of an ad campaign caring for the whole community. Our website is now easy to access for the disabled. This will help you in brand perception in your community. Now, to sum it up, accessibility matters because it's the law, it's good business, and most importantly, as hospitals, well, we have a higher calling than the typical business in our community, and I know you agree it's the right thing to do. So we look forward to answering your questions. Give us a call or email us at Brentwood Communications. We'll be happy to demonstrate all the things you've seen and more, and how all of this works. Most importantly, we can set your site up for accessibility quickly and in a very cost-efficient manner, much less than the items and the costs that you've seen earlier in this presentation. And we'll do it turnkey, saving you time during this COVID-19 crisis. I hope this presentation has been helpful, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.